skew my subject in terms of the exposure scenario? No. Why? It's a pre-flash, right? It's a pre-flash. So this flash emanates milliseconds prior to the actual exposure, and it talks to this light. Now, Drew's got this guy going on. It's a paint pole, all right, that we use. We use quite frequently, okay? It can really reach people, as you can see. It's also cheap, all right? It's a hardware store item, so I just pop a flash on the top of it, and I can kind of maneuver it around. It's very light, and it's replaceable, right? They break all the time, but they're not expensive, so it's not that big a deal. So what I'm going to do here is maybe see the way Hugh is facing me. Could you fold your arms, please, Hugh? Yes, nice, comfortable. Okay, now see the angle of his body? I'm not going to try to light him from here, right? Intuitively, I see the angle that he is facing me. I'm going to light him from over here. So now Drew is going to be in group A. All right, this flash is going to talk to that flash. This flash will not express in terms of exposure. It'll just speak to that flash, and we'll see what we can do. All right, here we go, Hugh. Now you're going to have to come around this way a little bit more, Drew. Cool. All right, here we go. Good, good, good. Now, we have a pretty side-lit subject here, okay? Now, when you have side-lit with TTL, what oftentimes happens? Exactly what we're seeing here. It's a little bit hot, all right? I'm not referring to you, who you don't get a big head about that, all right? I mean, you're a good-looking guy, but I'd stop short of hot, you know what I mean? Anyway, you gotta have fun. You have to have fun with both the people you photograph and the act of being a photographer. This is a bloody difficult thing to do, quite frankly, and to survive at it over the course of time. And so you might as well just really love it and enjoy it. Otherwise, it's really, you might as well hang it up and go do something that's far more stable and remunerative, like maybe run a roadside fruit stand or something. I'm not sure about what it could possibly be, another endeavor. But anyway, let's get back to it. Now, the reason that is a little hot is the light is coming from the side. That oftentimes happens with the TTL exposure. I'm going to ask Drew to come from this side now, maybe a little bit. And I'm going to talk to that light. And I'm going to take a little light. Let's see. Let's select the group. And let's take it down to, say, -1. All right. Cool. Looking good, looking good. A little back, Drew. Cool. Nice. That's a pretty nice portrait of Hugh, right? Pretty nice portrait of him. It's still got a little bit of fill from this side. Let's see about a silver fill board. Can somebody help me out here? Go for it, dude. Stuart, right? All right. So now, we're going to put a little glamour light in Hugh here. We're going to actually angle the flash a little bit down and skate it off of the silver fill board so that Hugh starts to achieve a certain radiance that, cool. All right, so you're going to come, Stuart, you're going to come right about here. Drew's going to come at an angle like this. All right, looking good, Hugh. Way to go, way to go. Now you see there's a little low pop to that light. I've still got kind of a lot of fill going on. You can still see the coloration, like some of the warm light is coming in from over here. What if I did this? Has anybody ever gone with, we're going to take a chance here, with a 35mm 1.4 lens. All right, let's try this. We're unsure about this lens because a colleague of ours thought our bag was closed and lifted it. It was open, and this lens just about an hour ago came flying out of the bag, bounced on the floor, and rolled away. So I haven't shot it since then. So we'll see. This might be the Magical Mystery Tour. But I don't get upset about stuff like that anymore. Things happen on location. I was talking about language earlier. Just a quick story. One of my big clients for many years has been Federal Express, and I used to work with a guy named Bobby who was from Mississippi, had one of those beautiful drawls, who used to do the decaling on the FedEx trucks, and Bobby kind of talked like this. And we were on location together, and this poor guy, Paul, who was the videographer with me, real nice guy, had this incredibly expensive video camera that he thought was bolted to his sticks. And he grabbed up the sticks, and he threw the sticks on his shoulder, and the video camera just came flying off of the sticks. And it went and cantilevered through the air and hit a concrete sidewalk and exploded into about 30 or 40 pieces. Everybody was on radio, and there was dead silence on the radios. And the first voice you heard was Bobby's. And then the voice goes, "That can't be good." You know? Anyway, I digress. So, now, same exposure with a 35. Now, if I want to get rid of that background or really blur it out, what can I do? I'm at f4. I have a fast lens. I can go to f1.4, right? I can go to f1.4. So let's really exert some control. We just showed aperture priority and the way it marries up with the flash system. Let's get out of aperture priority. Let's go back and eliminate all the exposure compensation. Let's go to manual exposure. Now, if I wanted nothing in this place, absolutely nothing, what could I do? There's an exposure. It's almost nothing. There's an exposure at 4,000 at f4. Do you think I can sync that up with my flash? Anybody here use a technique called high-speed sync? Yeah, so let's see if we can do that. 4,000 at f4 will really darken up the background, and we'll get isolate hue even more than we already have. Okay, let's give that a try. Now, what happens in high-speed sync? You lose a lot of power, right? So let's see. Let's see where this brings us. 0-0 compensation. Let's go back into the flash and make sure that we're at 0-0, and we'll give the flash a fighting chance to synchronize with the camera at 4,000 of a second. Now, you just did something really cool. Is that, you remind me of an editor I used to have at the UPI. Could you look at me? I want you to look at me, Hugh, and look at me as if I'm a staff photographer for you and you're my editor, and I just turned in a horrible take. So in other words, I want you to look at me, yes, disapproving. There we go. There we go, right there. Cool. Up a little bit. All right. Hugh does disapproving pretty well, actually. Pretty well. Now, that's 4,000 at f4. Now, if I want to get some background and make sure that background's blown out, what can I do? I can go to 4,000 at 1.4. Let's see what happens there. Good look, Hugh. Way to go. Okay, now I got a little bit. Now I've taken those lights and put them a little bit, sort of blurry and sort of out of focus. Let me look at these guys up here. Can you turn a little bit towards me, Hugh? And let me do this. Let me get into something that is not. All right. So now I'm gonna. A little bit up, Drew. Cool. Way to go, Hugh. So now I got rid of all of you. I mean, you're wonderful people, but you're kind of a distracting background. Let's face it. Okay, so I used the camera mechanics to actually make a nice picture of you and really drop everything out. So that was done at 4,000 at 1.4. Right? So the camera relates to the flash even at absurdly high shutter speeds. But you also saw how close Drew was with that light, right? And that actually looks pretty nice. That's not a bad, but also look at his eye. I had been in kind of a generalized autofocus mode. I took it out of that mode and I put it into AF single, and I dropped the cursor on his near eye. So at f1.4, you can see his near eye is sharp and his far eye is out of focus. So you have to be really careful about that stuff at f1.4. But it's an effective way to go about things, all right? Is this good information? Is this progressing in an interesting way? Cool. How about a round of applause for Hugh? Now, hang out for a second, Stuart, Yeah, let's do just that. Now, we've been working with a small light source. Let's see if we can turn this other light source into a big light source. Now, there's a beautiful face in this audience. I think she's someone's daughter. I think she's got blonde hair, and I think she's sitting right over there. And here's the thing, sweet. What's her name? Rachel. Rachel? Would you mind coming up? How about a round of applause for Rachel? Make her feel wonderful. Outside of the fact that she's an incredibly lovely young lady, what is the other benefit to me? What's the method to my madness here? She's wearing a gray card. Way to go, Rachel. Thank you very much. That makes my job easy, okay? Ever have that corporate portrait where somebody shows up in a striped shirt and a plaid tie? And you're like, oh my God. And you just struggle through the day. She's instantaneously lovely, okay? How old are you, sweet? 13. Okay, fantastic. Okay. Interested in photography? Okay, so your mom didn't like physically drag you here. You wanted to come. Okay, great. All right.
Love it.
All right, fantastic. Okay, so now, because as opposed to Hugh, okay, who had a lot of character to his face, that's what they say, Hugh, when you get a little older. That's a nice way of saying, oh, he's got a character-driven face. Rachel here has a beautiful unlined face, very young face. So I'm going to try to enlarge my light source for her to make it softer and more rapid because it'll just be more flattering for her. Okay, obviously it would be an appropriate way to go for a younger face like this to try to be softer and more curved with the light. Also feminine. Okay, so let's give that a try. You comfortable with this? Is it okay if I can take the picture? All right, good. Cool. Why don't we try like an 85 maybe? Let's give that a try. So, you can do just exactly what you're doing, okay? You don't have to do much of anything at all. Just be yourself, okay? What year of school are you in? 7, okay? So that corresponds to like high school? Okay, all right. I've got 2 girls myself. They're older. They're a little grown up now. They don't completely act that way all the time, but I'm going to ask you to stay just where you are. Now, she's got a kick of her shoulder towards me, so I'm going to swing the light instead of this way. I'm going to swing the light around this way, all right? And we're going to use a light source. Now, let's do this. Let's do an experiment for a second. Let's use a hard light source from here, okay? So, I'm at 250 at f4, all right? Now, that's going to give me some background. I'll mess around with that. But what Drew's going to do is he's going to not physically hit Rachel with the light, but he's going to hit her with a hard light from a distance, right? He's going to hold that light up, and that's going to be a spectral light source. Okay, so here we go.
Yep.
Great. There you go. Perfect, Rachel. Okay, so now that's kind of bright and brassy. You see how there's hard shadows there and all that sort of stuff. Now, I think probably TTL is running this a little bit bright. Okay, it looks fine in the camera on the screen. It looks a little bright. So you can obviously manipulate that. You can take it up and down as you see fit, right? But let's do a very dramatic difference between this hard spectral light source over here. Drew's going to come up very close to Rachel with this, which is a trigram type of diffuser. It's a handheld, you can handhold them, you can put them on stands. I like them because they're rigid in their construction. They fold down like that. You can put them on a carabiner and clip them to your backpack, and you got a little studio that you can go off into the woods with. All right? So now, just stay just like that. Leave them. Okay. From the side a little bit.
Okay. I like that.
Okay, now outside of the fact that I have my equipment in the picture there, let's do this. Let's tone it down for that screen. Okay, let's take it and let's go down by -1. Here we go. Same thing. All right, come a little forward, Drew. There we go. Good. Great. Very nice. It's a pretty nice light, right? It's pretty simple. That wasn't hard to do. Actually, it was incredibly difficult. I'm exhausted. Now, we've got kind of an out-of-focus background. F4 is producing sort of these highlights and stuff like that. That's kind of nice. Stuart, could you get back onto bounce patrol for me here, okay? Now, let's see if we can shift the attitude of the light here and go overhead of Rachel just a little bit. Stuart, switch to that side. Now, this fill is a silver fill. It's kind of splashy. It's a little bit fashiony. It doesn't have a color cast to it. It's fairly neutral. Okay, here we go. Ready, Rachel? Great. Also pretty nice. Outside of the fact that I have the TV scene that's going through her nose right now, but not sure. Now, let's do this. Say you're on assignment. You want to speak with the light. Say you're on assignment to do a portrait of an adolescent deep in thought, right? Studying for your exams, wondering about the rest of your life, contemplating the future, something a little more pensive. So let's create a little bit of a window light for Rachel. Let's do this first, and then we'll do that. Good job, Stuart. Now, I know that was incredibly difficult to do. I Actually, let's have it go this way. Let's have it go this way. We're gonna bring a soft, simple light from the side. Now, Rachel, I would like you to look towards Drew, okay, and that light source, and I'd like you to be a little bit pensive for me, kind of like thoughtful, all right? Maybe look down this way, okay? Look down. Now, can you slip that hair out of your eye just a little bit? Perfect. Very nice. So that's kind of pretty, right? Could be like a simulated window light, you know? Now, if I wanted to, I could probably do this at f4. I could probably go to, I don't know, let's call it 4,000 of a second again at f4. Let's see what happens to high-speed sync now running it through a big diffuser. That's great. So now we've isolated her, dropped her out, okay, and taken away all the distraction in the background. Now, I wouldn't do this to her. I mean, I wouldn't do a backlight for her, really, because she's just so pretty and simple, and her hair is not like big fashion hair or something like that. But you could light the background. You could throw a light back in there, and this light would speak to that. But let's make this a little shorter and sharper, shall we? Now, the thing about this tri-grip, it comes with a sleeve, and Drew's going to put it on. And we'll see what we can do about making this light not quite as luminous and not quite as window light, a little shorter, a little sharper, okay, by putting this sock basically over the diffuser. And this thing has got a window, a port in it, that you can Velcro the port to kind of like a mid-size kind of like center section, or just use the Velcro strips to cut it down to a very, very narrow strip. Okay, so that's what we're going to do now. We're going to take this and make it a narrow strip. Drew is also going to take, here's another element of control that you have. You can take the dome diffuser off the light, and so instead of glowing like and radiating 360, he's taken the dome diffuser off and he's gone to 200 millimeters. And so now the light is very punchy. We've zoomed the light. In other words, just like zooming a lens, we made the whole thing a little bit tighter and sharper. Okay? All right, so now, as you can see, can you show that to everybody? You can see the narrowness of this. We're going to use it vertically. Okay, sweet, here we go. Good, great. By the way, you're just amazing to work with. And how about a round of applause for her? She's very, very self-possessed young lady. You can stand up here in front of a whole bunch of strangers and have a picture with you. Really wonderful. Okay, here we go. All right, cool. Now, that light should be harsher, right? It's snappier. It doesn't spread around her hair the same way the other light did. Okay? It doesn't wrap that way. So shaping the light both at the source and at the diffuser does a lot of different things for us. How about a round of applause for Rachel? Okay, all right, thank you very much, Steve. And you can have any of those pictures. Are you on Facebook? Wow, yes, on my part. Okay. All right. Sir, you're on, dude. No worries, no worries. All right, so now Ron has got a character-driven face. Why don't we use an easy box? Let's just do that. Okay. Ron, what are we going to do with you? Now, we're going to use a softbox. Now, you couldn't really see the effect or the possible effects of lighting through a panel with Rachel, because what happens to that light? It just disappears out this way. Okay? But, say for instance, let's put the, do you mind putting it on the paint pole? And sir, Richard, can I ask Ron to sit where you are? Can you come on up here with us? Now, say for instance, sorry, man. Now, Ron, go out and sit on that seat there, okay? Now, say for instance you're working and you see somebody that you need to take a picture of, and the art director's with you and say, hey, get a picture of that guy with the mustache, all right? And so, okay, all right, cool. So we're going to take a paintball and we're going to drop it on him, basically. We're going to just arch the light out. And also, you know, I'm going to keep it a little bit away from him. So we're going to fly it right out in here. And what will happen here as well, I'm counting on this being a tiny bit of an assistance, the white floor, right? A little bit of a skip off the floor. We'll see how that goes. Yeah, we'll stick with the 85. That sounds good. Doing all right, Richard? Yeah. All right. All right, so Drew's going to kind of hang back, and then he's going to extend this guy. Now I can talk to this light. Yeah, it comes from about there. That sounds good. All right. All right, here we go. A little bit back. Let's see what happens there. Okay, so now I've got 250 at f4, okay, and I've got, got Ron pretty well lit here, not bad, okay, with, I'm dropping him out. What are you doing with small flash, pretty much, when you're lighting your foreground? You can't light the world with small flash. I can't light this whole place. So I'm formalizing my foreground. I'm trying to make my foreground look kind of along the lines of what I want it to look. And then I'm playing with the background. When I introduce a light in the foreground, it gives me a lever of control over the background. Okay? Now let me switch up to a 70 to 200. Cool, thank you. Now, Ron, portrait yourself a little bit. There you go, good. All right, cool. Now Drew's going to come from the side there with this paint pole, and I'm going to use a longer lens, and that means I can kind of hover back here in the crowd. Down here, how you doing, dude? You all right? Maybe a little bit off to the side there, Drew, if you don't mind. Cool. A little back, Drew. Cool. All right, so that's not bad. Now, by virtue of the long lens, I threw everybody even more out of focus in the background. Even more so, okay? Now, let's do this. Just made a picture of Ron, okay? You can trade up seats back. Right back there. You get, no, you're a couple, right? You're holding on to her, so you better be a couple. Okay, come on forward, both of you. Okay, Ron, come on over here, please. Why don't you stay out in the middle there, if you don't mind? And I want you to mimic the pose that you just had. In other words, the gentleman was right behind you, kind of holding onto your shoulders. It was very sweet. Okay, cool, just like that. Now, Drew's going to come from this side. We'll see if we can cover two people with Easy Bob. Stuart, grab that silver. You might be on again. All right, here we go. Now, can I skate on F4 with this couple? Little dodgy, right, at F4. Let's start there anyway, okay? Now, sir, what's your name? Michael? Okay, come around her a little bit more. Bring your face around just a little bit. There you go. Good, good. All right, Drew, come on in. Really nice. Good, way to go, guys. Nice. Okay, so that feels a little bright to me. I think possibly TTL is taking off on some of the background and reading the background as being a little dark and sending a message to the flash to brighten up. Might he be taking off maybe, what's your name, please? Kirsty. Kirsty? Okay, so she has kind of a darkish blue on it. Might be varying just a little bit. So I'm going to take, I'm going to go minus 0.7. Stuart, you're on. Let's go. Come on. Let's go, dude. We only got a couple minutes left, man. Now, you gotta come this side. Sorry. Follow the direction of the light. The fill comes in the direction of the light. So if you could kneel down there, Stuart, if you don't mind. That's it. Okay, cool. And now just keep it tabletop. Bring it up there. That's nice. Way to go. Oh, Michael's looking at you adoringly. That's wonderful. That's a wonderful thing. Okay? That's very sweet. Very sweet. Now, still feels a little bright to me. Let's take it down just even a little bit more. Let's go that. And now, I'd like both of you guys, Kirsty, are you guys married? Okay, cool. So lean back against him and just turn your head that way. Kind of close your eyes down a little bit. That's it. And now, Michael, you just kind of like, you also close your eyes and just get a little romantic and dreamy. Now, everybody, let's tiptoe away. Sorry. A little bit back here. Cool. Okay. Now she's turned into the light. I'm going to ask Drew to go this way just a little bit more, and Michael, you also turn your head just a little bit in that direction. Cool. Now, why am I doing that? I lost the edge of shadow on Kirsty's face. So now she's kind of flooded with light when she turns into it. I'm going to try to get that shadow back. Shadows are your friend. Shadows allow you to achieve dimensionality in your photographs, which is a hard thing to do. Because I always say, you know, we shoot a three-dimensional world onto 2 dimensions, and then we give it to one-dimensional editors. Value judgment there. Beautiful. Way to go, guys. Nice. And that's probably, see the shadow come back on her face? A little more definition to it. How about a round of applause for this wonderful couple? All right. So, Adventures in Flash. We made a couple of nice pictures, even though we were yakking like crazy. I was yakking like crazy, you know, in the last few minutes. Those are pictures that, you know, just developing right on the spot. That's what the system gives you a chance to do, is kind of be intuitive, react, maneuver, control your foreground, and therefore manipulate your background. All right? So I hope you feel this is worthwhile. Thanks for stopping by the Nikon booth.
Thank you. Is there anyone who would like to ask Joe a couple of quick questions? Hang on a second, let me grab the microphone. If anyone else would like to, raise it, we'll get a microphone to you.
What about colour filters?
What about color filters on a flash? They exist. I mean, filters are a whole world unto themselves. You can use filters in a very practical way. In other words, to control the conversion of a certain white balance into another type of white balance. Like if you walk into a fluorescent environment, you can use a green conversion gel on your flash to make the flash the same color temperature. Okay, that's what we're dealing with, is color temperature, Kelvin temperature, in the environment that you're walking into. So there's those. There's CTO, color temperature orange, or convert to orange. Those are warming gels that you take a daylight light and push it towards incandescent. Well, it's different now because there's so many fluorescent lights that are old light, but traditionally the lamp by your bedside was a tungsten bulb, and that would burn somewhere around 32 to 3400 degrees Kelvin. And if you ever shot that on a daylight balance type of material, it would glow kind of warmish. So a CTO will bring your daylight neutral flash in that direction. And then of course there's a world of other gels. There's reds and blues. We carry 2 different types of gels. We carry our conversion gels, and we carry a whole stack of what we call our theatrical gels. The theatrical gels are when you want to go crazy on someone. Oh yeah, these are the packs of them. So these are the CTO, CTGs, okay, and then these guys, you know, are the reds and the blues. You know, these are the kind of Dr. Frankenstein kind of gel. Okay.
We've got another question here up the back, please, Joe.
Where are we? You're going to have to really shout.
Great, thank you so much. Just out of curiosity, what camera are you using there?
D4.
D4.
Yeah, okay, right. Thank you. Trust me, it's not a Canon. Given our environment here, okay? Joe, we've got a question down here. Joe? Here. Oh, here.
Thank you for the information. What would you recommend for compact camera for traveling, for landscape and buildings?
Landscape and buildings, compact. I would use a D4 and a 600 millimeter f4. I'm sure they'll be able to fix you up with it over there. I'm kidding with you. I'm joking. I'm not a good source for compact camera information because I don't use them. Okay, I know there's amazing little bundles of technology over there that do, like Craig was showing earlier, the Nikon 1. It's under $1,000 and it does a world of stuff. But I am not a good source for particular information because I tend not to use them very often. Apologies.
Are there any other questions that people would like to ask Joe? Up the back there?
Way in the back.
We'll get a microphone to you. And just before we get your question, after this, Joe will be going over to the KL stand to sign some CDs if you'd like to purchase any of his great CDs online. So he'll be over there after this.
I'll be wandering over to the KL booth. We've got a DVD that's all about basically an extended voyage from the basics of small flash through multiple small flash. John, where are we here?
I just want to know, what got you started in photography? What made you become what you are now, one of the world's greatest photographers?
Well, let's backtrack off that question. I'm not one of the world's greatest photographers. You're looking at somebody who's been in the trenches for about 35 years. I am nowhere near being a great photographer, and I'm not being self-effacing. I'm a pretty good shooter. I can do a lot of different things well. I'm a generalist. I'm handy for a magazine to have around. As I always say, I'm like a good utility infielder. I'm not the best at anything, but I can do a whole bunch of different things relatively well and survive a story. That's why National Geographic has used me as cannon fodder for the last 27 years. And they throw me at things that nobody else wants to do. So let's just back off the kind of that kind of hyperbole. But in terms of becoming a photographer, I always wanted to be a journalist. I went to school to be a writer. I've always enjoyed telling stories. And during the course of that writing curriculum, I was actually required to take a photography class. When I took a camera in my hands, it was a done deal. It felt natural. It felt like this was the way I could go. I have a good imagination. I'll allow myself that. And it translates pretty well visually. And that was the start of a career with a camera in my hands. The corollary to that was like when I was out there with a camera, I thought to myself, this could keep me out of an office. But I don't thrive well in an office. All right, you good? Thank you very much for coming by the Nikon booth.
There we go. Thank you very much, everyone, for coming.